stated, the notional functional approach to language teaching addresses this challenge by focusing on practical and real-world communication. So instead of emphasizing grammar rules alone, this method helps learners master the specific functions such as making requests and giving directions, and the notions like time, quantity, frequency, and location. So that gives functions the meaning. By centering lessons around everyday scenarios, the notional functional approach equips students with the skills to use language effectively in real-life communication. So the notional functional approach, or NFA, to language teaching emphasizes using language for communication rather than focusing solely on grammar. It is based on two key ideas: the notions, which is the concepts like time, quantity, and location, and functions, which is the language purposes like requesting, advising, or apologizing. So the goal is to teach learners practical language use in real-life situation. So the notional functional approach is a method for teaching languages that focusing on how we use language in everyday life rather than just memorizing rules. So it looks at the main ideas, the notions, and the functions. So I have here examples of notions. So first is the time. For example, in a sentence, yesterday I went to the park. So the time here is yesterday. So this is the notion of the sentence. Second, next week we'll start our new project. So the notion here is the next week because it talks about the time of the sentence. And then I live here for 3 years. So the notion here is the 3 years because it talks about the time. Next is the place. So the sentence, the keys are on the table. So the place. So the notion of the sentence is on the table because it talks on the place. Next is she lives near the library. So the notion of the sentence is that near the library. So she lives near the library. Next is frequency. So in this sentence, I always eat breakfast at 8 a.m. The frequency in the sentence is always because it talks about the notions like the quantity, like the frequency. Second, he rarely goes to the gym. So the notion of the sentence is the rarely. Last is the quantity. So in this sentence, I need a lot of water for this recipe. The notion of the sentence is a lot. It talks about the quantity of the water. Next is the function. So, for example, function, because functions talks about the language purposes like requesting, advising, or apologizing. So, for example, functions asking for help. So the sentence, can you help me carry this bag? The function is can you? Asking for help, can you help me carry this bag rather? Next is making request. So the function of this is the could you pass me the salt please? It making request of this sentence. Next is giving advice. So the sentence, you should get some rest, you look tired. So the functions here is that you should it's like giving advice for a person that needs some rest. Fourth is apologizing. So the sentence, I'm sorry for being late. So I'm sorry for being late. Yeah. Apologizing. The words I'm sorry is the function of the sentence. And then I apologize for the misunderstanding. The function of the sentence is that I apologize. So here are the key tenets So, well, grammar is important. It's taught in a way that helps students communicate. It's integrated into the lesson but isn't the main focus. So, my group mate will discuss the performance of notional functional approach. Definitely one is communication or my topic is the components of notional functional approach. The first one is David A. Wilkins developed NFA in his book Notional Process 1976, advocating for organizing language teaching around notion and functions to improve real-world communication. David A. Wilkins believed that languages should be taught based on the ideas of concepts, notion. People needed to talk about such as time, location, or quantity. And the function of language, like making requests or offering advice. He thought his method would make language learning more practical and improve communication skills. In his view, focusing on how language is used in real life is more important than just memorizing grammar rules. Second, John Monaghan. Communicative competence, highlighting the importance of using language appropriately. In social context, purpose focus on needs and analysis in communicative syllabus design 1978, tailoring language instruction to learners' specific communicative needs. Mulvey emphasized the importance of needs analysis, understanding what learners need to do with the learning in real-world context. He believed that language lessons should be designed to fit the specific communication needs of learners, whether there are tourists, business professionals, or students. His focus was on making language learning relevant to the learner's personal goals. Third is introduce the idea of communicative competence, which means learners should not only know grammar but also how to use language appropriately in different social situations. He believed that language learners should include knowing when, where, and how to use language in a culturally and social appropriate way, which supports and functional aspect of NFA. Fourth is Michael Halliday developed systematic functional linguistics, viewing language as a tool for communication in context, aligning with NFA's focus on meaning. Halliday's perspective was that language is a social tool for making meaning and achieving communication goals in different contexts. He believed that teaching should focus on how language functions to convey meaning in real world situations. His approach complemented NFA as the emphasized that grammar should be taught in connection with how it helps achieve communicative purpose. The last one is Haderan Sway. Expanded on communicative competence, integrating grammar, social linguistic, and strategic skills, reinforcing NFA's goals of practical language use. Haderan Sway expanded on his ideas of communicative competence. They believe that communication involves more than just grammar. It also requires social linguistic skills, knowing how to speak appropriately in social context, discourse competence, how to keep a conversation going, and strategic competence, how to deal with communication problems. They saw the NFA as an grammar with practical communication skills, making it effectively for real-world languages use. All these theories shared as common belief, language learning should focus on real-world communication rather than just grammar. Wilkins and Monlight prioritize organizing lessons around the notions and functions. Philipson and Halliday emphasize the social and practical uses of language, and Connell and Swain stress the need for the balance between grammar and communication skills. Historical development. In 1970s, development as part of the communicative language teaching in response to grammar focus methods. In the 1970s, the Notional functional approach emerged as part of the communicative language teaching sales development. This was a reaction against older methods like the Objunico method, which focused too much on repetition and grammar drills. In Council of Europe 1972, introduced the threshold level syllables applying the NFP principles. In 1972, the Council of the Europe developed the threshold level syllables. This was one of the first major attempts to create a language course using NFP principles. It outlined what learners need to know to communicate in basic everyday situation across European languages. And 1980s present influenced task-based learning and modern communicative methods. And then by the 1980s, the approach had gained popularity as more teachers in school started using functional syllabi. Today, NFP still influences many modern languages courses, especially those that prioritize speaking and real-time communication.
So good afternoon. So here are the issues and criticism of Notional functional appointment. So first is limited focus on grammar structure. So the Notional functional approach emphasizes communication over grammar, potentially leading to a lack of understanding of essential grammatical rules. So according to Turnberry in 1997, so in his book about language, when teacher focus too much on encouraging students to speak, they might skip over important lexical grammar. So this can lead to gaps in understanding how the language works. So, like for example, so if a student learn to say, "I want to go to the store,"
they plan to do tomorrow. Third is combining skills. So, what is the focus? Integrate speaking, listening, reading, and typing. So, what is the example? In a travel unit, students read, listen, write emails, and role play. So, the NFA, or the National Functional Approach, encourages teachers to combine speaking, listening, reading, and writing in lessons. So, this way, students learn to use language in a more complete way. So, for example, in a travel unit, students might read a travel brochure, listen to a conversation about booking a hotel, write an email to make a reservation, and then practice speaking by pretending to make the reservation with a partner. So, fourth is the cultural understanding. So, what is the focus? Includes lessons on cultural differences and language use. So, the approach includes lessons about culture, helping students learn how languages used can change based on social situations and cultural differences. So, for example, learning about greetings and different cultures. So, in the lesson on greetings, students learn about how people greet each other in different cultures and the right way to use formal or informal language. So, the remaining application in language teaching and learning will be discussed by Bingo.
Next is knowing learning focus. Start today identifying students' specific language goals. Example, tailoring lessons for students who want to learn and speak language. How to work. Teachers start by finding out that what studies need to from their language learning. This makes sure that lessons are useful for their goals. Example, if students want to work in hotel, the teacher can focus lessons on vocabulary and places develop use in that job like checking and guess and answering questions. Next is task-based learning. Focus involves collaborative activities that mimic real-life tasks. Example, planning, sharing together, and discussing business. How it works. Lessons include activities where students work together to complete real-life tasks. This encourages teamwork and practical use of language. Example, students plan to trip together discussing where to go, booking hotels, and making itinerary. This helps them practice using the language naturally. Next is using real-life learning. Focus. Utilize the techniques resources like videos and articles. Example, watching a travel show to hear real language videos. How it works. The aim is to encourage using real-life materials like newspaper, videos, and audio from native speaker. This helps students hear and see how language is used in real life.